It was almost a year ago that I decided to buy myself a luxury watch, or at least a luxury feeling watch to use as a beta watch. And going on that journey led me to the purchase of this Oris BC3. And today I want to circle back to this particular watch to not only look at it in a little bit more depth, but answer the question, has this actually ended up working out? Have I used this Oris as my daily beta watch? Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And just like a lot of people out there, my daily beta watch, the watch that I used at work, the watch that I used to not worry too much about, was a Casio G-Shock. And it's a great watch, a fit for purpose watch, an affordable watch, a tough watch, a very legible watch, and a perfect watch to use as a beta watch. But the problem I had with that G-Shock is that I didn't really enjoy wearing it. I looked down and thought, that's a great watch and a very fit for purpose watch, but I didn't look down and go, wow, that's cool. I didn't get that sense of enjoyment from it that I do from my other watches in my collection, my mechanical watches in my collection, the watches that I look down and I think, wow, that is something special and I enjoy wearing it. Instead, when I looked down at that G-Shock, I thought, yes, very fit for purpose. A good beta watch, and it is a good beta watch. Any of the G-Shock watches are fit for purpose and are fantastic this way. I just didn't get that level of enjoyment from wearing it. And that's when I decided to go on this journey, to find a watch that could replace that G-Shock for me. A watch that was super legible, had a day-date feature, that was fit for purpose for this work environment. Yet when I looked down, I had that sense of enjoyment. When I felt this watch on my wrist, it had that almost luxury feel to it, and it definitely had to be a mechanical watch as well. And when I went on this journey, I tried to pick a watch that ticked a lot of boxes for me. And it wasn't exactly the exact same sort of journey that I was going on when buying other watches. It still had to be a beta watch and a fit for purpose watch and a legible watch and also an affordable watch. But I wanted it to be a mechanical, nice feeling on wrist watch as well. And that journey took me to buying a second-hand BC3 from Oris. This watch was cheap. This watch was well loved. This watch was missing links to the bracelet. The box that it came in was well used and missing parts, but because it was affordable, but because it was legible, but because it was also from a brand that I love, I hoped that this might be the right watch to buy as my beta watch. And I'm going to answer the question almost 12 months later, whether or not this experiment worked. But firstly, I just want to show this watch off a little bit to you guys, because it is actually a really good watch. Oris is one of my favorite brands of all time. I think they do a great balance between great designs, well made, but also not super expensive. But they're definitely not affordable watches. This one was affordable because it had come, well, let's just say pre-loved. It had plenty of marks and scratches on the bracelet and the case. The crystal and the dial, however, were like new, and the movement ran very well, and it continues to run very well now. And if you had bought one of these brand new when they were available, they weren't specifically cheap. They were around $1,500 US. But it's an older generation Oris now, which you can't buy new, and they are definitely varied in price depending on where you look, and certainly the quality of them is varied depending on that price as well. I deliberately went for the cheapest one I could find because I planned to beat this watch around. I didn't want to worry about this watch on my wrist, and that's what I ended up with. So I ended up paying a lot less than a recommended retail price. In fact, I think I spent around 400 Australian dollars on this particular watch, which is still more than I would have spent on a G-Shock. Yet for me, I think it was worthwhile for this experiment. But this watch, I think, has some things going for it that are worthwhile considering, even if you're not looking to use it as a beta watch, because it is a very well-made watch, a very good-looking watch, a very legible watch, and it has the day-date complication down at that 6 o'clock in a manner that I really like. It is integrated into that dial better than any other day-date that I've seen, because normally I actually avoid this complication. I don't mind having the date, but a day-date normally detracts from the dial, in my opinion. But the way they've formatted the day-date on this one, I really like. Hey, this is one of those quick me jump in, break up the video a little bit to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. All you got to do is click on that. Costs you absolutely nothing, but honestly makes a huge difference to me and this channel. Thank you. Let's get back to the video. I also love the legibility of this watch, how those hands look on this watch, the huge amount of lume this watch has, and of course it has that sort of pilotish style with all the numerals there, so I tend to quite like that style, but it does sit quite flat on wrist. On my 17cm wrist, it does sit rather large and rather flat, but I think it looks okay, especially for the reasons I bought it. Because this watch is actually a 42mm case diameter, has a 22mm lugs, but it sits fairly thin on wrist, and because it has that sort of universal sort of end link on the case, it allows you to swap straps if you wanted to, but I was able to use the original bracelet that came with it. It did not come with any spare links, but I was just lucky enough that it fit my 17cm wrist. But as you look at the side of the case, you will see the lugs do angle down a little bit, but I think it's because of the squared off nature of it and possibly just how flat it is beyond those slightly curved down lugs that it does end up sitting a little bit flat on wrist. But you will see there is a mixture of textures. There is some brushing along the sides and some nice sort of polish underneath and on that solid bezel. The bracelet is all brushed and there is a little bit of taper there, brushed on the top, brushed on the side, and all the links are individual. And that leads down to that Oris clasp, which has a nice crisp feeling when you take it on and off. And I think it's the bracelet and that clasp that do give me that slightly luxury watch feeling when I wear this one. There's a slightly unusual screw down crown. It is unguarded, but it has a little bit of color inset into that sign crown, and it only screwed down like sort of half a twist. So it does have water resistance, this watch, but it sort of seems to only screw in a little bit. I'm not sure if it's because of this particular watch and the age of it and how it's been dealt with throughout its life, but it feels like that's how it was designed in the first place. But it does screw down. Obviously, having a Swiss movement that the Oris watches have, it does also have manual winding and hacking. And you can see that Swiss movement through that see-through caseback, which is something that I do appreciate. If I'm sitting at work, I want to play with the watch a little bit. I want to enjoy that watch a little bit, but I also want to take it off and have a look at that mechanical movement. So that has certainly ticked a box for me. So when I went into this idea of trying to find a watch that felt luxury on wrist, but I could beat around and that didn't cost too much, has this one ended up being the right decision, or have I ended up reverting back to wearing a G-Shock? Well, I can say it has actually worked. I haven't worn the G-Shock since buying this watch. I have worn this watch instead of that G-Shock. It has been super legible. It has had a really good look to it. It has a really nice feel on wrist. And because I bought it cheap, and because it has already had plenty of love and attention and scratches on that case, I haven't worried about further scratching it. So it has actually ticked the boxes that I've wanted. This is not a watch that I probably would have bought if I wasn't buying it for this reason. It's a good looking watch, it's a well-made watch, and I do like it, but I don't tend to pick it when I'm not using it as my beta watch. But it has worked perfectly as my beta watch, and it has proved a point for me. It has proved that you can buy a mechanical watch and use in place of something like a G-Shock. It has been an interesting experience, and it's been an enjoyable experience because I've actually been able to wear a watch that I enjoy to work rather than wearing a G-Shock, which I do like. I just don't have that pure enjoyment like I do from this Oris. Thanks so much for watching. Maybe check out one of these videos next.